Hello everybody, this is TL ROM Hacks, and this is the fourth video in a series where we do a deep dive onto the differences and what do you get out of the experience of my Donkey Kong 64 ROM hack called Tag Anywhere Plus. In this video we're going to cover the cheat codes menu, and it is, I think, the second to last video that we'll do. This will probably be another short one because cheat codes are fairly simple, self-explanatory, but as I've done with every video, there's something I want to display, a new setting or feature, or in this case, a cheat that I think I am particularly proud of, or I think that is pretty cool. So as is normal, we'll hit the pause button, we'll hit D-pad up, and that'll take us to our settings menu. Now, normally I've been pressing right to navigate forward, but I can always also press left. And from the settings menu, I will get to our final page, which is the cheats menu. Now, a lot of these you'll see and you'll notice are pretty much already included in the game. Everything from infinite coins all the way down to infinite instrument energy is already a cheat code that you would unlock if you had collected all 20 banana fairies in a given save file. Obviously, the difference is here is that you can now turn this on at any time with, again, my design philosophy being player choice is kind of king. So if you want to play with infinite ammo or coins or oranges or anything, you're welcome to do that at any time. Nothing's forcing you to play that way if you don't want to. The few differences, or I guess like the new cheats here, there's infinite health, and turning that one on is pretty self-explanatory. It basically makes it so that if you get hit, you immediately get filled back up to whatever your current maximum health is. And I really will focus on a little bit of this warp menu, hold A to fly, and then the two cheats on these screens. Because these are new ones that were not originally introduced in the game through the banana fairies. So let's talk a little bit about the warp menu. What the warp menu does when turned on is it allows you to warp to various locations across the game without necessarily needing to have that unlocked in the first place. Now, one thing I want to urge precaution on is warping in general can be a little bit unstable. So in general, I would really encourage you to only use the warp menu if you're kind of just playing around and you want to have a little bit of fun. But if you're playing your game a little bit more seriously, just understand that turning the warp menu on and warping around can get you in some weird states where the game doesn't quite know what to do with you and therefore causes the game to soft lock or outright freeze. So if you do happen to see that type of stuff, there isn't always a fix that I can have as a developer because of you warping into some weird circumstances. I could give an example, but I don't think that that's really the point that I want to get to in this menu, or in this video, I should say. So in general, please use the warped menu to great caution. That's what I'll mention there. But when it's turned on, you can navigate to the right, and you'll see that the warp menu lets you pick various and different rooms. One fun call out is there is a debug room. I think a decent amount of people have seen the debug room by now, but if you haven't, I'll let you warp to that location because it's otherwise inaccessible. If you've played before but you've never heard of the debug room, it's a new room. It's not very big, but again, let you discover what that means. If I were to go back to the left to the cheats menu, turn that off, just for the sake of showing, I'll go to the right again, and you'll notice now that that warp menu is not there anymore. So going back to our cheats menu, hold A to fly, I did temporarily show in another video just because I needed it to do something and get to like a bonus barrel pretty quickly. But with hold A to fly turned on,
Okay.
you'll see I can just hold the A button and I'm flying upwards as much as I want to. One thing to point out about this particular cheat is that if you're on the surface of water, you can still float up and jump out of the water. But if you are underwater, holding A is what makes your Kong swim in the first place. So it is intentionally disabled. It'll still be turned on in the menu, but it just doesn't pay attention to this cheat code when you're under the water and swimming. So that way you don't have to worry about like magically floating through the water or anything like that. But what I'll go is I'll turn that off. Before I get to the second page of these cheats, there's one thing I want to mention. A lot of these infinite cheats, what they will do, for example, is if I had infinite ammo turned on or something like that. If before I turned it on, I had 20 ammo shots. If I turned it on, of course, I'll have infinite ammo. When I turn it from on, to back off, I will actually have restored the amount I previously had. So I'll basically go from having 20, turn it on, it'll be infinite, and then when I turn it back off, it'll go back to 20. So that way you have at least the same amount that you did before you had turned the setting back on or off. The bottom two settings here I want to show are the freeze helm timer for the first one, and it sounds pretty self-explanatory. In Hideout Helm, there's a timer that is dependent upon how many blueprints you might have turned in. And what this does is it just, pauses that timer. So if you want to play with that cheat, you certainly can. The recommendation I would give here with this one is that there may be circumstances where you have the cheat turned on, and then if you decided to turn it off, you might see the time jump because there's still kind of this timer in the background that is ticking. So my encouragement would be, if you're going to use it, just use it entirely, right? Use it when you're in Hideout Helm and just keep it turned on. If not, keep it turned off and play the game normally. Now, the showcase I really wanted to do here is the Super Primate Punch. This is, kind of a silly little cheat, I'll admit that, but it's basically around Chunky's Primate Punch move. So with this turned on, you still need to buy the upgrade from Cranky or unlock it through the Unlockables menu. But with Super Primate Punch turned on, it effectively just ups the power in pretty much all situations for Chunky's Primate Punch. You're not going to see anything different visually, but I'll do the Primate Punch here. That move. Funnily enough, it's actually Chunky's cutscene because I haven't disabled those. But anyway, so there's Chunky's Primate Punch, and there's a particular reason that I'm here in the Frantic Factories. Normally, those Robo Kremlings, they couldn't be killed unless you threw an orange grenade at them or you did the Shockwave move. Well, one thing that I've changed with Super Primate Punch turned on is I can Primate Punch one of these guys, and it does actually kill them. That same status is also for the Kashas, which have a similar thing. You can usually only kill the Kashas with a Shockwave move, I believe it is. So now a Super Primate Punch, you can actually kill the Kashas as well. A few other callouts I'll have about this Super Primate Punch mode is that with it active, normal enemies receive a lot more damage as well. So even the Kasplats that hold the blueprints, you can kill them in one shot from Chunky's Primate Punch. I kind of wanted it to just be a little bit of a fun thing. The Primate Punch is something that's a little bit nuanced for you to land as a player, so I figured it would be fun to see kind of like a skill difference in if you could land a Primate Punch. The very last thing that I'll call out with Super Primate Punch is that the Fungi Forest boss, and I don't want to give too many spoilers, so the Fungi Forest boss is played by Chunky. And towards the end of that boss fight, if you've played before, you might remember, you had to use either normal punches or the Primate Punch against that boss. And it was actually really difficult. I remember that much. So with this cheat turned on, the Super Primate Punch, it actually makes that end stage where you're doing the Primate Punch against that boss a lot easier. I'll be honest, it might actually be a little bit too easy. But again, you have the option to turn the cheat on or off. And that's really it with all the cheats we have in the cheats menu. So again, as always, I thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next video.